The one thing I would ask is, what's the firm's vision? And that can go down several levels to ownership, to what is the win, what is the firm looking to do, how are they looking to grow, how many advisors do they take on? Do they take anyone? Or is there some kind of selection process?
I just got off a call at 8:30 in the morning, the growth call, with my entire team talking about how we're going to grow. And everyone on the team has a grow goal, a serve goal, and a learn goal for the whole week. And then they report back at the end of the week on how they're going to grow the firm, how they're going to serve the clients of the firm, and what they're going to learn this week. And that's the mindset.
True alignment is when your vision and your firm's vision overlap. And take that down to, even our teams. They know the vision of our firms, and it aligns with theirs. You get this environment that is hard to penetrate. You get an environment that's working together as a team because everyone's got the same vision.
Well, after a long-awaited summer, Carmine, we're back. This is the Broken Dealer Podcast. We're going to talk more about how to become an independent financial advisor. Now, we took the summer off because Carmine needed his respite, but we're back and ready to roll. We've got kind of a fun episode today to talk about. We're going to kind of spitball this one a little bit. And we're going to call it firm speed dating on questions you should be asking when talking to other firms.
Yeah, and the respite I needed was from hanging out with Daren so long. I needed to detach and take some time away. So thank you for allowing me some time off, Daren. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm glad I could provide for you there, buddy.
You're the best.
So let's kick this episode off, and we're going to kind of roll around some different questions and see where that takes us. But what should you be asking, right? So you get this call, you're thinking you want to leave your broker, you want to make a change, you're getting bombarded by recruiters like all of us are constantly. Mm-hmm. So you finally start answering some of those recruiting prompts that you get. And what should you ask? What do you need to know? I certainly know in my experience, Carm, I'm the type of guy that likes to go out there and do a ton of research and understand every different option. And when I did it, I met with probably 15 to 20. It was probably overwhelming, probably too many decisions to make. And but I learned a lot through that process and understanding how things are set up and how they're structured, how the recruiters and the various organizations you meet with show you certain things, but not other things. So hopefully we can help you avoid some of the pitfalls we might have seen going along in our journey to be independent financial advisors. So Carm, what's the first thing you'd ask? If you were going out there, the first thing you would say to a firm, what is it?
I would ask them what their vision is. And I'm going to use the, dozens of advisors that we've worked through in this, liberating experience of getting them out of these constrained environments. Is the one thing I would ask is, what's the firm's vision? And that can go down several levels to ownership, to what is the win, what is the firm looking to do, how are they looking to grow, how many advisors do they take on? Do they take anyone? Or is there some kind of selection process? So for example, who owns the firm? And by ownership, you can probably guess what the vision is and what the goal is. If you see a firm that's majority owned or owned by private equity, then we know that, revenue, net revenue is a driver. And then go even deeper. What's the deal? Well, listen, we're acquiring or we're bolting on to sell in 5 to 7 years. And if that's your vision and you get what I call true alignment, great. So right at Jump Street that you're in alignment, that your timeline matches with theirs, you're looking to transition to exit. The other side of that coin is if you're an advisor looking to grow and scale, and maybe you only have 10, 12, 15 years in the industry, looking at a 30-year runway, does a 5 to 7 year exit that you're not in control of make sense for you? Is there alignment there? And
so let me time out you a sec, because you just gave us, there's a lot of wisdom in the various things you talk about. I want to jump back before you get too far down. So we talked about vision, but one of the things you said is who owns you, right? So let's talk about why that's important, right? So we have a saying in our business, if you show me the incentives, I'll show you the behavior, right? I think there's someone said that famously, right? And I think that's such an important question. Who owns the firm you're going to work with, right? And what's their driver? What's their incentive? Because that's going to pull down through the entirety of the company, right? So publicly traded firm, for example, is going to be tied to that 3-month period, right? They've got to get earnings out, right? So you're going to see a lot of short-term decision making. You're going to see a lot of profit motive. You're going to see your bottom line get, I guess, compressed over time because of that, because they have to go somewhere. So really, really important understanding who owns it. The second is what's your vision, but I think often that vision piece that you talked about, Carm, is who are you talking about with that vision, right? Because I can't tell you how many times I've met with people over the years that really didn't control the vision, right? So if you go to a big firm, a big, perhaps PE-backed roll-up independent financial advisor, it's probably not much different than just going to a large broken dealer.
No.
And right, it's just a different incentive set, but maybe a little bit better, but you're still going to be owned perhaps publicly. And I've talked to a lot of PE firms over the years. They fully intend over the next 3 to 5 years to just roll these things and IPO them.
Yeah. And that, Jocko says intent has a smell, right? And I'm going to quote my man because he's absolutely right.
Intent has a smell. Yeah.
Right. So I've said this for many years. My team will probably kick me when they hear this, but I always say this, when the vision is clear, decisions are easy. Take that a step further in creating a filter. Let's just say your vision is to grow your practice to a certain size, maybe have your children come into the business or sell to your COO, your servicing advisor, or whatever that case may be. Use that as a filter and say, okay, this firm, based on their vision, their ownership, what they've done in the past, are we aligned? Use that as a filter. And if the answer is yes, great, proceed. Get more information, get enough information you need to make an informed decision or intentional decision. But if that firm's got that vision of 3 to 5 we're going to sell, and that can disrupt your plan to grow and scale, and then you exit on your terms, pump the brakes.
Let's pump the brakes in a minute and go back again. Sorry, I keep interrupting you.
Yeah.
Why is alignment so important, Carmine?
Because without true alignment, true alignment is when your vision and your firm's vision overlap. And take that down to, even our teams. They know the vision of our firms, and it aligns with theirs. You get this environment that is hard to penetrate. You get an environment that's working together as a team because everyone's got the same vision. Everyone's got the same purpose. Like when you get people in line, in true alignment like that, you want to talk about scaling? Scaling comes automatic when you have true alignment. Now, why wouldn't you, as an advisor with a vision of growing to a certain size and exiting the way you want, wouldn't you want your firm to have the same alignment there? Because if not, you're going to hit resistance. And it could be many different things. It could be product requirements, product sale requirements. We've seen that. It could be if they're looking to sell in 3 to 5 years, if that's a come along versus a drag along, they may force you into going to another broker dealer, another RA you may not want to go to, or they're even further disconnected in alignment. You're going to hit road bumps. Now, a road bump or a speed bump, that won't stop your progress. It'll slow it. But we've seen, let me give you an example. We extracted a team from a constrained environment 2 years ago. And we're doing a white paper on this, Daren, those case studies we've spoken about. They had $42 million under management. In 2 years, they're at $120 million under management. Okay? Because we have true alignment. And they would have never guessed tripling their business in 2 years was even possible.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Because in their old environment, it was impossible because it was conflicted. Their vision and their firm's vision, the insurance company they were at before, were not aligned. You don't even know your true potential until you're in an environment that is built to help you serve your vision, not the firm's vision. And that's where that intent is. That's where your point about, any publicly traded company, long-term planning for them is 90 days. Unless you're an advisor with a 90-day plan, is there alignment there? Probably not. Hence, you're going to have a minimum of 4 speed bumps a year. minimum.
The alignment piece, and I think one of the things I wanted to extrapolate out of what you said is you said that it's important to have overlap, right? Like, we're not saying that you're going to ever have complete vision alignment, but that there's pretty consistent overlap,
True. Yeah.
which is absolutely critical. So go back to that group that tripled their business. What would you say the 5 things are that they did to triple their business? Or the 3 things?
I'd say 3
Mm-hmm.
is one, and you know our operations pretty well here. They were able to shed 2 staff people just because of how our technology is integrated and it's built for a practice like theirs. So they were literally able to plug and play in our existing ecosystem, save the complexity of having multiple staff people, use that would be number 1 is tech. Our tech and our systems and processes, workflows, all that's kind of one umbrella, say operations, basically. The second is they use our service team. So we offer an in-house service team here at Cornerstone where for the fraction of a full-time staff person, an advisor can plug into, right now we have 5 full-time staff people that are there just to assist the advisors. Scheduling meetings, pre and post-meeting prep, onboarding new clients, all the things that they would either have to do, number 1, or number 2, hire to. Because it's easy to hire staff, but hiring, and you have to inspire them. That's the biggest piece, is that advisors may be so busy in their business. How do you train and inspire staff people where our staff people, when we have that true alignment, we got it. They're all house here in person, and their only job is to assist these advisors in growing. And the third one is, I would say, focus. Because when you're they were at an insurance company that had guardrails and had sales requirements for their proprietary products, right? Very easy to look at that conflict of interest there. Once you take that requirement out, I call it elevator music, because number 1, it's never good music. It's never music you want to hear. And number 2, it's always playing. So throughout the year, that elevator music of, hey, you have to sell a certain amount of the product in this 12-month period or else payout goes down. You could lose your benefits for you and your family. It's all tied to what their intent is as insurance companies to sell product, not intent of we are going to build a like we did here, an ecosystem, a culture to help these advisors grow and support their growth based on what their vision is, not what our vision is.
I think this is a nuance that is often missed when you're talking and you're interviewing potential firms to work with. And that is, what's the mindset around growth? Because it's everything.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many firms out there, like I think Carm, you and my firm, we take for granted that, I just got off a call at 8:30 in the morning, the growth call, with my entire team talking about how we're going to grow. And everyone on the team has a grow goal, a serve goal, and a learn goal for the whole week. And then they report back at the end of the week on how they're going to grow the firm, how they're going to serve the clients of the firm, and what they're going to learn this week. And that's the mindset where you walk into a lot of RIAs, a lot of independent advisors, and they're not even back from the weekend by 8:30 on a Monday, right? So what's that culture you're looking for? And I know, Carm, you have invested a ton of money, time, energy, effort, and you kind of make jest out of it a little bit, but Jocko and following his training and this 100% accountability and all these pieces is such a critical part of your infrastructure and how you've built your firm. Those aren't things that I think people realize. I think when you're in that ecosystem and that culture, that feels normal. But when you walk into another RIA, and you and I get to talk to a lot of other RIA leaders throughout the country, every firm is a little bit different. And so finding that ethos that aligns with your ethos is so critical to a successful relationship if you're not going to start your own firm. And I think that's what you also have to be thoughtful about is, and we've said this many times on this show, are you an entrepreneur or an entrepreneur? And we're going to talk about that in our episode here. But this idea that, do you want to be like Carm, and he's setting the ethos for the organization, that he's going to the Jocko trainings and bringing back the culture and structuring the service team and all those things? Do you want to do that, or do you want to just focus on being an advisor and then find a team like mine or Carm's that would do that for you? I think it's really important. So So we talked about true alignment. We talked about vision and how important vision is. We talked about vision and whether or not who's setting that vision, and does that person who's speaking that vision really have any control? If it's a large broker dealer or publicly traded org, they don't have that. They got a 90-day vision. I think another thing that often I always say that good neighbors have good fences, right? So if you break up with, you join a firm, it doesn't work out well, and you break up, what's the breakup process, right? I know at our firm, we've gone to a lot of lengths to say, here's the process you need to follow to make this one compliant. And I think that's other advisors don't realize sometimes, is that there is a compliant way to leave a firm and there's a non-compliant way.
Mm-hmm.
And a good firm like yours or mine has a process where you can say, I'm done, but follow those rules, because there's a reason there's rules there. And they have to be there for, SEC regs, et cetera. Super, super important. So Carm, if you're going into a firm, how are you going to verify that they have a leave process built in place?
It should be ours is in our contract, and our attorney, our chief compliance officer, says we have a compete clause, which means an advisor can leave and open up shop next door to me in my building. And it's built by design that way, because when I built out the framework or the rules and regs here, I said, I'm going to build a firm that I would want to join. One will give me because listen, not every relationship is going to work. They're not all built to work. Things change. Advisors will move on. And I want to give them complete autonomy. And if you don't want to be here, heck, I don't want you here, because culture is the main thing for us. It's not numbers. Our main KPI we track is impacts, not revenue. If it wasn't, we would have a compete clause, non-compete clause.
Sorry, because you throw out these things and we got to go down the rabbit hole, right?
Okay.
So we don't track, revenue. We tracked impact. How are you tracking impact? What's the KPI for that?
We have how many like-minded advisors we want to bolt on in a calendar year, organic growth, and households. So we track households, we tracked organic growth, and that's a basic metric. That's AUM and financial planning fees. And we actually have one Monday a month in our L10, our level 10 meeting on our Mondays.
For those who don't know, what's a level 10, Carm?
So following EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System, book called Traction, written by Gino Wickman, genius. And it's a framework we've been following for many years. L10's our Monday morning meeting, has a structure. We have one of our staff people that runs it, and every certain Monday of every month, we go over what our operations person built out as a KPI dashboard. So it's literally a working document that pulls in all of our data, all the AUM, households, financial planning fees, things like that. We look at growth. We look at even growth at the firm level. But then I use it as a tool in the quarterlies that I have with each advisor, because we could pull it up at the advisor level. Okay, how are you tracking to plan? What can we do to support you? But the impact for us is, in my opinion, you can only track and make important only a few different KPIs. If you're tracking revenue, net revenue, this, that, it gets too complicated. And I like simple. I'm not a smart person, a very smart person, not as smart as Daren. So I need simple things to track. We need to get into the weeds and drill down. If something looks irregular, great. We have the data to do it. But for us, it's how many like-minded advisors are we bolting on this year? And how our advisors are organically growing. Because growth by acquisition or tuck-in was never our main driver. Our main driver is organic growth.
So let me pivot again on you. So I'm going into a firm. Mm-hmm. I think Carm's talking about the ethos of his firm, where it's about impact and how we're changing lives. And here's some metrics, and that's why I asked the question. It was kind of a setup. It's a hard thing to measure, right? Like impact. What does impact even mean? Let's be really clear. The assumption here is you're tracking, how many households and organic growth and how many advisors, and that's creating more impact, and you're having positive impact on people. One of the things I see a lot of games played with when you're interviewing firms is on the whole payout thing, right? Because you're like,
oh yeah,
the payout, we'll pay you out 95%.
Daren, I have one better for you.
Okay.
We're talking to a team, and once we pass there's 2 standard calls that we have with the team to make sure we have a cultural match before we get into numbers. And then we send them out a data sheet and they fill out with their practice. And one of the questions is, what's your current payout? And this team had put 100%. So myself and my COO were reviewing it for our next conversation with this team. And I said, well, that can't be right. Okay, so we start drilling down. No, we have 100%. It's an independent RIA in the Midwest. And we start drilling down is that it's 100% payout, portfolio management, that, by the way, per their agreement, they have to use this firm, puts them at a payout rate that they come here, they get a raise overnight. But we do it where there's a payout and there's a cost for PM is separate because you're not obligated to use us for PM. If you're doing it on your own or using sub-advisors, great. This advisor was floored when we did the side-by-side comparison because this team would get a pretty significant raise. And then you factor in things like, there's certain firms that charge a couple basis point household fee at the account level. Or is there a platform fee? Are you paying for your E&O? Are there transaction costs? So there is a payout number, but I call it peel the onion. And that's one of the reasons why we do this intake with the advisors. And how many times have we heard, man, this was such a good exercise because I didn't even know how I was forced to go look for these things that I haven't known for 15 years. And I didn't know I paid this. We were just talking to another team that they were 97% payout on paper, but they were being charged a 5% account fee for a 5 BIP account fee each account level. And I said, well, he goes, I always thought I was at 97, but I'm not. I'm at 92. Okay, great. Now it doesn't move the needle for us because here's our financial structure. But going through the process of speed dating is like we're calling it for today, forces you to pull this data and start asking questions. What am I getting for this extra 5? Why am I paying this extra 5? Is there a way to get around it? So I think it's a really good exercise, full disclosure, for every advisor to do. Take stock, do a review.
I would say generally this is true, right? Like every situation is a little bit different, but generally it is true that for any of you're paying like an override to, it's usually you're paying the override and then you get to run your business with what's left. It's usually not, here's the override and it includes all these things and then you just run your business and it might be a few, write-offs that might be more questionable. It's usually, we're going to take our skim our 10% off the top or whatever, and then you run your business. And I can't tell you how many times I've had conversations with advisors says, well, they're offering, 95% payout. You're not offering that. I'm like, yeah, well, they're offering 95% payout and then you run your business, which is completely different.
Here's one too, is getting money up front, right? This is something that we see a lot of.
Yeah. It's amazing how many advisors in our business can actually do math, but go ahead.
The financial industry is not in the business of giving out free money. Let's just call it what it is. It's the way the industry is. But when there is you're going to get this up front day one, there's usually a stay bonus. It's 10 years, 8 years, whatever it is, right? But if a firm is willing to give you $1 million up front, they're making $2 million somewhere else. So I would go back to saying peel the onion. So 2 advisor teams that joined us had money offers somewhere else. And one of them, he got a pretty substantial offer. And I said, peel the onion, but go, and I tell everyone, go interview other firms. I want you to come here eyes wide open, right? If you decide to. And the firm said, well, look, we'll give you this amount of money up front. We're on their proprietary trading platform, but we're onboarding with Schwab in the next 6 months. So once we onboard with Schwab, you can use their platform. You're not obligated. And we know that if they're proprietary trading platform, they're making revenue there somewhere. So now flash forward almost 3 years later, they still have not brought on Schwab. So this was lip service to this advisor, and he's so happy because he knows someone that's there. They still haven't done it, and they probably never will because they're not going to shut that revenue stream off. Why would they do that? Right? They're in the business making money. So I would always say another advisor got a huge offer from another insurance company. And I said, well, There's a product requirement, right? Yeah. Well, then there's how they're making their money. They'll give you $750,000 up front, but over the next 5 years, you're going to make them $1.5 million. Here, we don't do that because we don't make money on our advisors any other way than payout. Like it's basic standard. And I always say, you want fee transparency for your clients, right? That's fair. Well, why not you have fee transparency as an advisor? You get a billing statement from us every month. You know exactly what you're paying and exactly what you're getting. There are no other revenue sources. And I think that's powerful because we don't, and that, again, that goes back to true alignment. If we truly want the best for our advisors, this is the best setup for the advisors to succeed.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I think that's really well said. If you're getting a check, they're making it back somewhere. Now, I have found that unfortunately, there's a lot of advisors that live their life in a way where they probably need an advisor, and they have to take a check because they don't have any other option.
Right.
But really, like there's a indenture servant aspect to taking a check because you're locked in for 8 years. But there's a lot of people that just literally, my plan is to go work with this firm and then bounce 8 years from now to the next firm, and that's their thing. And we tell clients this all the time, like when we're in competitive interview situations, and like, just be prepared to move brokers with that advisor a few times over their career because that's how they make. Another way they make money is they take these big checks, they work it off, and then they move to the next one. And at the end of the day, they're finding a way to scrape it out. And I can tell you, when I started my firm, we actually offer some insurance to our clients. We're not a fee-only firm, but on a very limited basis. And I went to this big IMO, which is just basically a marketing company on the independent side that markets insurance to the advisor. And the sales guy that was talking to me says to me, he goes, "Well, Daren, do you want us to take a chunk and cut it out for you and then give the payout to your advisors? Or do you want to just give them the full payout and then you take your chunk?"
Mm.
And it was like illuminating to me. So what they said is, so in every insurance policy, there's something called a target premium. And that target premium is effectively the commission. And then it goes to grid where there's a split between the producer and the firm. What this group was telling me is that they were basically going to say, well, let's say the target premium at 100%, you actually get paid out 130%. We'll send 30% to the firm, and then the firm splits it with the advisor. And it was like these light bulbs that went off that like, oh my goodness, this is happening at every major broker. They're scraping 30% and then sending it to grid and taking their cut. So if you think that $1 million check they're going to get you, they're not going to make it back 2, 3, 4 times, you're fooling yourself. So if your production's on a truly independent chassis is going to be what it's going to be, is it would be with this other firm that's taking scrapes everywhere, you're going to make a heck of a lot more money over time. But you got to invest in yourself in that situation. And so again, peel the onion, do the math, understand what the game is, like legitimately build a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Years ago, I thought, which is crazy. Like I told this one advisor who was with one of the big broken dealers, and I was like, "Give me your payout. Let's build out a spreadsheet." And we went through it line by line, and the guy was just floored at how much money he was actually paying to the firm in comparison to what he would pay us to join us. But anyway, those are some of the top questions. What's the vision? What's the alignment? Really dig and peel that onion significantly, figure out what they're after, figure out what the incentives are for the firm. Those are all super critical things. But I think with joining any firm, the devil is in the details. But like always, there's a lot more to the story. And we're going to wrap up this quote unquote firm speed dating episode and come back on our next episode. We're actually going to be talking all about technology and why technology is so important to your practice.